Good evening. My name is Elliott, Moffett, and presently I'm the chairman of the Navy Group Protecting the Environment, and I'd like to thank John for that introduction and listening to the panelists. It was a pleasure listening to the panelists, and sorry Levi Holt couldn't make it this evening. He was scheduled for this panel, but he couldn't make it. Sorry to hear that he had a family emergency, but I'm glad to be back at the U of I and go Vandals. Over here next door is a Department of Anthropology, and is Dr. Sappington still here in the department? And we asked him, he'll give you some scientific information about like archaeological digs on the reservation and near the reservation. And there's a rock shelter near the Salmon River where there was found 15,000 years ago habitation there. And so we've been around for at least that long. And so when people talk about sustainability, then I'd like to make that point that sustainability, we sustained a lifeway for over 15,000 years. And so when people talk about the science isn't there or things like that, because we've studied it for the past 10, 15, 20 years, well, we've been in this business for a little longer than that. And so we'd like to make that point, but also from the very outset, then I'd like to make the point also that we don't favor the delisting that's going on with Yellowstone bears and grizzly bears, and I'm glad that Louisa has been working with tribes and the tribes over in Canada and Montana to work on reintroduction or strengthening the bear populations there, and she had that experience, and I'd like to acknowledge her for that effort too, because it's very important to us. And Navy Group Protecting the Environment is a nonprofit organization, and co-founder with myself is Julian Matthews in the back. Wave, Julian. And we kind of got started around the megalodes issue. So that's where they were trying to locate, transport megalodes, these big pieces of equipment through Nez Perce country, and we didn't think that was a very good idea. Not only did they not ask us or even consult with us about doing that, but they were headed for Canada, the tar sands, and we knew that tar sands were taking place there, this extractive industry that was hurting the environment and the people up in Canada. And so we couldn't stand that either, so our tribe chose to do a blockade of these megalodes, and people up here did the same thing. And so I'd like to acknowledge that as well, the effort to stop these things from going through, because all tied with that, and when we're talking about policy of the United States, and we have to look at things like the energy policy. And so, I'm glad that we're in a legal setting. So, but I have to start out with the proviso that I'm the chairman of the Navy Group Protecting the Environment, and I don't represent the tribe in this particular instance. So, but working with the tribe, working in the tribe, and then we do have some information about the tribe's position on these issues, and we work with the the tribe in many respects. And one of the things that we work on is federal Indian policy. And just as Hugo Black, he said, great men like great nations keep their word. And he should have said great people like great nations keep their word, but we'll kind of excuse him for that. But the point being is that when the United States was just forming, then we had treaties with the United States. And some of those treaties that we negotiated with the United States were said things like, this will be your homeland in perpetuity. And it's not been our homeland yet, because there are many things like these megalodes that try to go through our country and without consultation. And so it comes to the fact that we have to often defend what we don't consider ours. We don't consider grizzly bear ours. We don't own grizzly bears. We think that somebody ought to speak up for them. And so that's what we try to do then. Within our limited means, because this is something that, like the tribe's fisheries program, it's comparable to any in the United States and in the world. I mean, they bring back species and reintroduce species, and the tribe has been noted for reintroduction of things like the gray wolf within the state of Idaho, and so but that takes resources in order to do that, and it takes science also. So I'd like to put the plug into young people to stay in school and do, especially in the sciences, because we're going to need scientists for a while here. And we're going to need legal minds also. So I don't know if there's any tribal members that are going to law school right now, but there ought to be. And the law school ought to be encouraging and recruiting tribal members to be in law school too. I don't know if it does or not. That's a recommendation I made. Because we're so tied up in the legal area in federal policy, federal Indian policy, that we have to look at these things and decide if we can use these mechanisms to protect like grizzly bears, like salmon, and gray wolves, and things like that. And so I point out also that we've been able to be successful. People like Dana has helped us out and to advocate for salmon and advocate for protection of these natural resources within our environment. But and so we have to divert tribal resources in order to do that. And so that can, that can take a lot of money, and it takes a lot of years sometimes to get these things done. And so one of the issues that we're working on right now is to breach the lower four Snake River dams. And that's the next thing that we're working on to try to make that a reality. So the Snake River is more free flowing than it is now. And so, but it does take legal minds, and we work with not only environmental groups, but also legal offices and legal environmental groups too. And so we notice that we have to work with other groups because we are small and our capital resources are kind of limited in that regard. So, we do find that working within coalitions and organizing is an important thing. But I just point out also that we've had a couple, like the National Marines, that was just last May, National Wildlife Federation case, and that's where the judge was telling the federal agencies that they have to consider breaching in their environmental review and analysis. And so, and then there was just recently, even like last month, I where the court said that the spillway on the dams have to be increased for fish passage. And so that was another case that tribes and environmental groups have won. And now they're moving towards more habitat protection under our treaties. So that's another area that we've had some success, and you may hear about those. They're called culvert cases, the culvert cases in Washington. So those are examples of victories, legal victories, but sometimes they can be, that's what we call paper salmon, and because you can't really eat them or anything, but you have it. It says right here in this case, I mean, you have to respect treaty rights in fishing, but you can't eat that. So we have to sometimes with recalcitrant states and that don't want to follow the federal district courts is something that we have to do too. And it's an odd time that we're facing too, and many tribes are wondering what's going to happen in the future, especially with this administration. And you know, it's very odd, and we really don't know what to plan for because of that, because of the administration. You know, beyond the comments about, you know, the insensitive comments about Indians and gaming and things like that. You know, where is this administration going? How is it going to protect treaty rights? Because it has what is called a trust responsibility. And so we're asking, okay, administration, what is your policy on your trust responsibility? And so that's a big question in what we call Indian country. So we have to constantly be aware that that's what happens. We have to not only devote resources, financial resources, and scientific, but human resources as well to help to try to bring sense back into things like wildlife management. But I'm here just to say that we are working on these issues. We're going to be coalescing with other folks and be able to advance these kinds of issues. And there are things that people can do. They can support those kinds of efforts. And for example, you know, you can let your representatives know. You can let your senators know to support the EPA and things of that nature. Honor the treaties. That's another thing that if you're looking to be an ally of tribal issues, then you can say that to honor the treaties is again something of integrity, because, you know, harkening back to my first comment where we keep our promises. Those are promises that were made in exchange for a lot of land, and so that's what we want to do is to make sure that the United States lives up to its promises. So I'll just kind of conclude here that we do, as a nonprofit, and we do advocacy work, and that's not only in the states and the federal government, but also within the tribe, because we think that there ought to be, the tribe should be or take up more of a leadership role in some of these issues, and so we'd like to see that, but also that means that they need the resources to do that too. I mean, it takes money to pay salaries and whatnot, and we'd like to see as an advocacy group that the Selway Bitterroot Wilderness Area be seriously considered as habitat grizzly bear recovery and reintroduction. So with that, I think I'll conclude for now and wait for the questions. Thank you.